All right, welcome back to Do You See What I Mean Season 2. Mia, today we are talking about one of the biggest films of the year, and certainly one of the biggest of the summer, from the director that gave us Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, and more. It's Disclosure Day on Do You See What I Mean? Okay, Mia, today we're going to talk about a couple of headlines. We're going to talk about the film, which is Spielberg's 35th feature. I want to hear what you think. I'll share what I think. We're going to talk a little bit about science versus religion, which is one of the major themes. And then, listeners, we're each going to give you our top 5 Spielberg before we close it out and tee up next week. So, Mia, I don't know if you saw this last weekend. Well, you and I definitely did not see Supergirl. I don't know if you heard any
I
buzz.
did want to see it. I did want to
Oh,
see
you did
it
want to see
because
it.
there was.
I am a
I
total pass on
did.
it. Yeah.
There's like a little bit of like she's like an actress that I watched out of the UK that's
Oh,
supposed
okay.
to
So
be in
so
it.
you were
The
familiar with her
only
then?
thing is, no, not the main actress. She's more of like, I don't even know if she's going to be like a small role or a
Right.
medium.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I saw her credited in there and I was like, I should just go check it out. Will I? Probably on a plane one day. Um, because I was like, I've fallen for this before where I'm like, ooh, that actress is in there.
Sure.
And then you go watch the movie and they're in there like playing the cashier or, like
I
they're
know.
playing the teacher for like 5 minutes at the beginning and then like the rest of the movie you're left with. And so that's where I was like, this could be a little tricky.
Yep. Yeah.
But when I saw this name, this Disclosure Day name, why did that, remember that movie Disclosure?
Oh, with Demi Moore and Michael Douglas, absolutely.
Yes, yes. I kept thinking like they should have come up with a different name
Mia, that's
because
exactly what I thought too. I'm glad that we're talking about this. I thought, Spielberg,
yeah.
shame on you, because that's such a specific word and a very
Hmm.
specific 90s erotic thriller. And
Hello.
it also sounds too legal. Like it's boring. That's not a great name, you know?
I know. I was hoping some aliens were sexual harassers.
That might have made things
Like,
a bit more interesting. But
right?
since it's opened, it's lost some momentum. So Supergirl opened to 68 million worldwide, not very good. It is not half of its production budget of 170 million. A little picture called Toy Story 5, Mia. That's another one that you and I did not go
Yeah.
see this weekend. Its opening global box office is almost $600 million. That is over double its production budget. But Mia,
I was gonna say, no wonder they got a Toy Story 5.
yes.
Okay, I need you to think about this. Toy Story came out when I was a kid.
Ah,
When
okay.
I was a
Yeah,
kid,
yeah.
this Joey's like, how old are you? Joey, you were a kid too. Don't trip. It was a 1995 film.
Oh, 95. Okay, so
1995.
I was 16. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you were a
Right. Yeah, it's
kid-ish. You
kiddish. Yeah. A little older than Andy was
were
in the movie. Yeah. No, but it
yes,
was
but you were
and it
still
and it was
barely. You
seminal.
weren't legal.
No, I
You
definitely
weren't.
was not. I wasn't legal until
You weren't
last year.
legal.
Really.
You weren't
But
legal until last year. So I was like, Toy Story 5. I was
I
like,
know.
how often do they crank one of these bad boys out?
Well, and that's the whole conversation. Some people think that 3 was excellent and one of the best, and the final one, there was a lot of buzz about 4, not loving, but 5, it cost 275 million to make, and that is in part because of all the kind of big name voice talent. Already $600 million,
Oh,
and it's
you didn't
also
think it was like all that time they spent
no,
drawing
of
those
course. I mean,
characters?
of course, the animation is
No.
expensive, but 275. I mean, my goodness, you know.
I was going to say, I always think that that is a budget for the animation
No,
teams that
100%.
work on
Yeah,
these projects.
and God bless them.
I feel like, yeah, it's very possible Tom Hanks is like, where's my check? But you know what I mean? But he's probably still making money off the first one since 1995.
I
Like
know. I know. Yep.
he's not like, I think this is probably going mostly to animators. But I
No, I
think
agree.
the
And
fact that
talent.
they are still cranking these bad boys out,
Yeah.
right? They're still cranking them out. I'm like, yo, this is going to be other kids stories too.
Yes.
Like, I actually think there's something very interesting about that for
Mm,
an animation to hold not only its art, its characters, its like voice, even its message for this long and hit so many generations of
it's a great
kids.
point.
I think
Yep.
that's actually really cool, but I don't know. Maybe, maybe I haven't seen any of the latest ones,
I
so
don't
I don't
think,
even know if
yeah,
they're good.
I know. I don't even think I saw four. The buzz about five is pretty mixed, I will say. I've listened to other podcast hosts who were like, that was great. It was delightful, and I don't mind its flaws, and others that found real issues about how it pulled punches in some areas and how it's merchandising the heck out of it. You can buy a lily pad voiced by Greta Lee. You can buy a little case for your iPad that makes the little frog ears, even though part of the messaging of the movie is that tech isn't that great for making friendships. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll cover it.
Did wait? Is that what the wait? That was the point of the film. I didn't know that.
I mean, well, from the trailers, the iPad comes in and the toys, the physical
Oh, I
toys are all
see.
kind of bummed out and they're
Is this
wondering how
is
it's
it
going to
still Andy?
change.
Is it still Andy kicking it
No,
with
the
his
last few have
toys?
switched to Bonnie, his little sister. So it's Bonnie's iPad, I think.
Wait. So Andy, I thought Andy got old. He went to
He went to
college by
college.
now.
Yeah.
He got married and he had some kids, and then the kids started busting out all the toys.
Oh.
And I didn't realize that Andy is still arrested in development.
Oh my gosh, that's actually a good subgenre. What if it was like Toy Story but The Wire? Like Andy is in jail? Or no, I guess that's Oz.
And he brought his toys with him.
Yep.
Now I'm arguing for the psych ward for him
I
at this
know.
point.
Well,
I'm
everybody
like,
everybody over at Disney is probably very happy because Mandalorian and Grogu underperformed according to what they wanted.
okay,
People, Mia, are still buying tickets to go see Obsession. Its global box
yeah,
office
okay.
is $370 million. The budget
I
was less
sat
than a
in a
million.
I sat in a crowded
You mentioned that. I
theater.
can't. I'm so happy
I
for
mean,
them.
it was completely packed. So when I
Yeah.
bought my ticket, I was like, okay, then I'm not fixing to lose an experience
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And I'm gonna be honest, it's one of those films. We were talking about this before we started. It's one of those films that concept wise, 2026 is pulling out some very original concepts.
Yep.
And it does seem to be coming from A24. So I was telling you I saw The Death of Robin Hood, which I think is
Oh
also
yeah.
A24.
Yeah.
There's honestly, way to go, Google, for making its investment into A24 because
I was going to ask you about that.
they
Yeah.
are telling stories. Like they are actually telling
It's true.
stories
It's true.
and they understand the technology that they're using. They understand how that technology flows into life. They, in other words, and we'll talk about this with Disclosure Day, when you see the way that they kind of like, you know, showcase this sort of extraterrestrial technology,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
intense. But when they're showing real technology, everyday shit people are using, it doesn't feel as like modern. There's
It does
something
not.
about this
It certainly
film
does
that
not.
does start to feel
Yeah.
very dated. But when I'm watching, like, it's one of those things where when you're watching some of these more later films that like an Obsession, that you're starting to see like, yes, people now know you can text and you can voice memo and your phone doesn't lose your location and they know that that gives your location and other people can track you. Like there's some things that you do need to, I feel like, Steven, come on homie, if we're going to do sci-fi, I need to feel the technology that we're in right now is meeting the
Right.
aliens.
Yes. Yes. And listener, by the way,
You know what I mean?
what Mia mentioned is that Google has invested a quote unquote research partnership where they will work with the Google DeepMind unit to develop new AI powered technologies for filmmakers. Google put in 75 million. That follows what a different venture capital firm called Thrive Capital put into A24 already. Thrive is run by Joshua Kushner, which is the brother of Jared. So there is a Kushner tie to A24. and I just wonder how that might play out. I was
Wait,
really excited
wait.
about A24 a long time ago. I am less excited. I think what they are is a marketing company. And with this Google AI stuff, I don't know if A24 is going to be around in 10, 15 years. I mean, I kind of hope they are, but all these things are getting very muddled. The $75 million number, Mia, for Google is
That
it.
seems
That
low.
is PR. That is
I
not
was
a big
gonna say
investment.
that was so
Not a
low.
big
I could
investment.
think of some
Yep,
like cheap apparel companies that
exactly.
get that kind of money,
I know.
raised within a few years. So I was like, when I saw 75, I was like, they just want to attach their name
I know.
to A24, and A24 is like, I'll take the money. Now, I'm going to ask you
I
this.
agree with you.
Is it Jared, or is it Jared trading on behalf of his in-law daddy?
Right. Well,
Because
technically, yeah, it's the brother
I don't
Josh.
I don't see him thinking too
I
hard.
know.
And I can see Josh being like, homie, what's your dad-in-law? What is he thinking? Does he want to give us money to put it here?
Yep.
I could put it in my name. That
Um,
that don't even sound right.
no, I agree with you. The other thing it recalls is how Mubi earlier this year accepted a huge investment by private equity. I think Neon might also be private equity. Private equity is known for acquiring and chopping up and spitting out. It does not have a track record. Its founders are not civic leaders in terms of how, let's say, the Carnegies and the JP Morgans were. So I think it's bad news. I think that A24's best pictures have been from directors, and I think that they have clever marketing, which I also find very annoying. So I don't know what's going to happen there. They also
He
were,
said, I don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah, they also were like, these are for AI tools. It's never going to be AI performers. But your mention of AI and how that is expressed in Disclosure Day is really good, because sometimes we're seeing tech in film be super cutting edge, and other times we're seeing it like it was presented in Disclosure Day, which just feels dated. All right, so we'll keep an eye on what happens with this Google investment. I don't think it's going to change A24. I mean, we hope it doesn't change A24's directory. But now it's time to get into one of the biggest films of the year, Steven Spielberg's 35th feature, Disclosure Day, right after this.
Would that frighten you? Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Let's. Today is. Today's.
People have a right to know the truth. It belongs to 7 billion people.
What is it?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So I'm gonna show you.
What are you gonna do?
Full disclosure to the whole world. All at once.
People keep wondering. Encountering the unknown. They're coming! They're coming! They are starved for the truth.
Do you think there could be others?
All right, Mia, let's talk about it. Disclosure Day is Steven Spielberg's 35th feature. He is part of what was kind of known as the Brat Pack back in the late 60s. Brian De Palma, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, and George Lucas, as well as folks like Marcia Lucas, George Lucas's former wife, who did a ton of editing for De Palma and Lucas and other people. So Spielberg's team on this has worked with him for a long time. This is his 30th collaboration with John Williams, although we're going to come back to that. 21st with DP Janusz Kaminski, 10th with editor Sarah Brochar. Kathleen Kennedy, the producer that has worked with Spielberg and Lucas and
Okay,
Tom Hung.
okay.
Yeah, she is not on this picture, and we're going to come back to that too, because I think that is kind of glaring. Paul Tazewell did the costume. He did Wicked, West Side Story, Hamilton. Adam Stockhausen did production design. He has worked a lot with Wes Anderson. I didn't really get any Wes Anderson vibes from this, which is a good thing. Um, the the VFX were done by an awesome VFX house, Mia. I used to work with a lot of VFX artists in a former life. Digital Domain is the VFX house. They did The Conjuring 4, which has the best VFX I've ever seen. They've done Avengers. They did Oblivion with Tom Cruise. So they're a really, really good house. Cast includes Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Eve Houston, Coleman Domingo, kind of standing in for Spielberg himself, Wyatt Russell, and Elizabeth Marvel.
Did you say Coleman Domingo stands in
For Spielberg? Yes.
For Spielberg?
I think so. He builds a set. He directs his actors. He wears scarves. We're going to talk about all that stuff. So the box office today, Mia, is only 194. We just talked about these huge numbers for Obsession and Backrooms and other pictures. The budget was 115. This is Spielberg, the most commercially successful director of all time. So Jaws made $495 million. E.T. made almost $800 million. War of the Worlds made $603, and his most successful film was Jurassic Park at $1.1 billion. That brings Spielberg's total to almost $11 billion. So this is a guy who knows how to make a lot of money. This is highly anticipated. There's already been a lot of buzz about it. You and I have not gotten the chance to talk about it in full. So please, first tell me, what did you think of Disclosure Day?
Okay, I was actually, you remember when the previews came out, you sent me a text, you were like, and I was kind of like, okay, this is not my... can I tell you, I do like sci-fi, but I like it really specific in terms of how it's going to reach me. And I knew this one wasn't that type of movie, so I went in completely open-minded and along for the ride. And that's exactly what kicked off in the first 5 minutes, just a full-on ride. True. I felt like it was slightly campy, which surprised me. But I was like, okay, this feels very War of the World, like, it kicks off with a little bit of that, like, family battle, like, that comedy element. And then by the time they were on the run, I felt like that was something that made this pull away for me for some of like Spielberg's other films. Okay. Now, if you remember Jurassic Park, there were these really cool shots that they would do with the dinosaurs riding along the cars and the experience in the cars. Like, he had that. He's done something very different in this film with the camera work, where I was like, he's given you this continuity of like someone, driving into the house, through the house, around the barn. And I was kind of enjoying that. I was like, to me, it felt like this was the most technically advanced, that made the film not feel like an old Steven Spielberg movie. Okay. It made it feel like a newer Steven Spielberg movie. He did some of this same work with War of the Worlds, where, you're having to drive around the trailer getting thrown in front of you. But you know what I mean? Yeah. You're just as scared. You're just as frightened as the people in the car. And I was like, you know what? He does know how to make that, like, runaway, chase away action movie. And I was like, this is what I'm here for. Yeah. Like, this is kind of what I'm here for. I really, after that, was just open to whatever the story unfolded to be.
Right.
So yeah, I wasn't like impressed. It was just giving me nostalgia.
Right.
It
Very
was
nostalgic.
It was giving me like when I was a young kid going see a Steven Spielberg movie vibe. Like, did I buy the popcorn? It gave me that. Yeah. But the story to me was so specific. And it got me thinking. Yeah. And I also appreciate the thought process behind it. Yeah. But it's not a movie. I told somebody, they were like, how was it? I was like, you remember next time when you're on the plane, you got to go for that 6-hour flight. This is when you're on a plane, go ahead and watch this one. Like, this is the one to watch on the plane. I wouldn't even say watch it on the, sometimes there's a movie for the holidays. You got your mom and your aunt and your cousin Susie coming, and you're like, what the hell are we all going to do together? Well, you put on
Susie, who has like the Jello casserole that the family used to make that nobody wants, but you still got to make it. Yeah, right.
Yes,
right.
And they're sleeping in somebody's bed. Somebody looks cranky every morning. So I was saying this. I'm like, sometimes Steven Spielberg is making a movie for everybody that it ends up being kind of technically for nobody. And that's kind of where this one fell for me.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, let me ask you real quick, where do you stand on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., and War of the Worlds? Like, are those favorites of yours, any of those, or?
Let me tell you, what I liked about Disclosure Day, which is different from some of his other movies, is I do have a hard time when they do these movies and kids are involved. Kids talk, they cry, they get hungry. No, I'm kidding. But I'm being serious. Like, War of the Worlds is stressful, not really because you're with Tom Cruise, but because he's got that little kid with him. You know, like there's that moment. So for me, I do like the alien encounters, but I don't think for my generation, nothing will ever top Independence Day.
Oh, okay,
Independence Day is I encountered an alien. They wanted to kill us and take us down. Here's the action. We're flying into the mouth of Jaws. Like, Independence Day is the iconic, like, encountering alien movie of our time. Otherwise, if I want something that is contemplative and thoughtful and interesting, I'm picking The Arrival, right? Picking The Arrival, right? Yeah, I'm picking not the Arrival with Charlie Sheen. I'm picking Arrival with
Amy Adams,
with Amy Adams.
Yeah.
So
gorgeous
there's something about this particular film and its encounter, knowing you have a few favorites, it doesn't really.
I want to come back to that because what Arrival does is far more thoughtful and sophisticated in terms of this plot point of aliens coming to give us a gift. Because the gift that the aliens give Emily Blunt, it's called empathy, even though it's really just mind reading, different than empathy. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, all right.
We're going to come right back to that. So let me tell you what I thought, and then we'll dig a little bit closer. Now, listener, it's my theory that we can't really spoil this movie because what the trailer tells you is that aliens are here, and that Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor are going to disclose it. There's not really that many spoilers or surprises in this movie, frankly. Do you agree with that, Mia? That there wasn't too much surprising, like any shocks?
No.
Like, oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, there's no shock.
There's no shock.
You see right there in the preview with Emily Blunt, and she's like cackling at her weather forecast. And honestly, there isn't much more revealed. Other than the uniqueness of some of their skills and gifts, and how those things function in driving the action. I think what we're supposed to ask ourselves is, and with all of these films, Joey, it's like, if aliens came, how do you think we would respond? Like, what in the state of the world we're in, how do we think we respond? And so, if you liked it, did you like it?
Okay, so let me tell you what I thought, but listener, we do want to talk about the ending. We'll give a spoiler warning before we talk about the ending, but otherwise, we're not really spoiling anything because so much was given in the trailer. So
I'm not really spoiling.
My biggest reaction, Mia, I saw this twice. The biggest thing I'll remember from this movie is really, really wanting to love it. I've rewatched his filmography a couple of times. In the last couple of weeks, I watched Close Encounters, E.T., AI, and War of the Worlds as a little prep for this. I really wanted to love it, and I just didn't. I don't think the film works, ultimately. I think the strongest points of the film are its ideas. So this idea of belief. What do you believe in? What do you not believe in? These strong themes of childhood and adulthood and alien life. In E.T., there's the older guy who tells Elliot, he visited me too, and I'm so glad this happened to you. It's the staging. Coleman Domingo's character plays like the leader of this de facto subgroup that has left this evil military corporation, and he's guiding Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt. He felt like Spielberg. He's wearing his beautiful suits, and he's walking around the stage set.
Yes, and he is in a director.
Kind of director role. I really like. I love twin narratives. I love duality, things that are So there is a scene and the scene features Colin Firth and Eve Hewson. He has traveled into her mind. And this is my read, she thinks he could be a demon, and she's clutching her little cross. And then on the
Right.
other side of the coin, there's a scene between Emily Blunt, and she demonstrates something very powerful. And one of Coleman Domingo's staff, like, kneels before her and makes the sign of the cross, almost as if Emily is an angel or a saint. So I like the twin narratives ideas, you know?
Oh.
I think those are,
Oh, I see.
I think some of those are nice, but Mia, none of this enabled me to elevate above what I'm going to call the garbage list. And I'm going to give you this garbage list right now. And this is what makes me so angry. So first of all, the premise is a lie. Disclosure Day is what happens after the final frame. We don't even see what happens. So Spielberg said, hey, come to this movie where I show you how the world would react once there are aliens. Never shows us. The film ends. This religion stuff, just, it bogs down the movie. It's cheap and it's broad. I mean, this is a Jewish director, you know, casting like a Catholic nun. There is the implication that the Bible allows for alien life, which is absolute garbage.
Wait, Joey. I actually disagree. I think it does. But I think, here's where I agree with some people. So when we talk about alien life, people talk about it as coming from a different planet. These are creatures from a different planet. And that is not necessarily what the Bible supports at all either. But there is an element when you talk about alien being something that's foreign to our atmosphere. I definitely think this is covered quite a bit, but it's very much, I think, living in a sort of like more mystical area
Spiritual.
of Judaism. And it's like when you think about, for instance, when you think about Jacob's Ladder, Jacob's Ladder is not
post-Vietnam story,
you know, written. Well, no. The one in Genesis where Jacob is just watching all of these creatures going up and down a ladder from outer. I think there's definitely a lot of extraterrestrial life encounter. But I don't think that is in specifically evangelical Christian dialogue. But I do think it does live there. You do have elements of the Nephilim. You have elements of the giants that come, these creatures actually taking on human form, being able to procreate with human beings. There is some dynamic to that, but it isn't like overwhelming. It's definitely not evangelical. You have not gone to church and them talk about aliens.
Yes.
But I think they will substitute it and put in angels, which, quite frankly, most of the evangelical depictions of that are non-biblical either. They're just kind of like more of a kind of an iconography element, but it's not necessarily biblical to text. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give him room for that in his religious conversations, because a lot of his films do take on that type of, like I said, that like more Jewish mysticist type of space of like asking questions. It's not like Jewish, but it's like, that like, we're going to go hunt and look behind the code and behind the message and see what it really means and find that ancient scroll and then uncode the key in the text. Like, I think he's really into that segment. And I definitely feel like when you are right, when he brings in some Catholic nun story elements, that's where it starts to get really confusing. Yeah. And I think that's where whatever his inspirations are or whatever start to get muddy. And I definitely felt like he was asking too philosophical questions about what is okay to disclose. In other words, you have your main character is like, I think we should disclose everything. I think everybody has a right to the information. They can decide whatever they want. Yeah. But then you have, I think you called it out. What's her name? I think her name is Jane. It's like a boring name.
Jane.
Like,
yes.
Is it Jane? Yeah. It's like, he has nothing but boring names in this movie. So if we don't remember them, it's like, Greg, and so Jane is sort of taking on the story of like, well, I don't think people should have this information. I think they should just have to believe. Right. That's a big part of the special journey, don't you think?
You're absolutely, and that's the biggest idea like, in the film.
But it gets lost, like the way that he brings in these sort of like characters, and like you said, when they're grabbing their cross. You're going, is this about a demon? Like, what is actually going on here? And I definitely thought it was a spiritual philosophical question, which is it better to go off of just faith and your own individual experience, or is it better to have those facts? And I feel like Jewish mysticism is definitely a space where they like the combination of both. They want the facts to give you the experience. But evangelical spaces aren't into that, and they definitely don't want people asking questions. They want people to think in moral tones of good and bad.
Yes.
So even when you think about Jewish mysticism in evangelical spaces, they'll put it in as like the three wise men. Even though the Bible doesn't call them the three wise men, they don't even mention three. They're called magi. But Christians don't like magic. So they feel like that's taking a moral switch. Yeah, right. So that's why I was like, he made this very confusing with some of those shots that you talk about. Because I was like, his message or his conflict is very clear until it isn't. Until, you know what I mean? I know. Until you start seeing other images.
And clarity is a great point, but it's also honesty, intellectual honesty. And here's where I would fault not only him, but David Koepp, his screenwriter, who has written Jurassic Park and tons of other stuff. There's a scene when Jane is saying to Josh O'Connor, look at how important religion is. Even if a lot of people don't believe, religion has united civilizations. And that was the most disingenuous thing I'd ever heard, because it has. And it has also destroyed civilization.
I was going to say,
religious wars
unite
have killed more people than anything else on this planet. The number of people that Islamic wars have claimed over the last 2,000 years is about 30 million. The number of people that Christian crusades and wars and persecution has claimed is upwards of 180 million people. So I'm sorry, Spielberg, you are, I know that you're about 80, but you have this character saying religion unites people.
80.
It does not. It does not only unite, it does unite people against other people. So that's where...
That's what I was going to say. It doesn't unite civilizations, but it will kind of tie in a culture. So it's like there's no civilization ever found that didn't have a religion. But it doesn't unite them all together. If anything, it does point out more of their differences. So that's where I'm like, but you know what? I'm thinking about that because I'm like, he does the same. I didn't know that was the same screenwriter for Jurassic Park. He's doing the same thing in Jurassic Park. He's going, should we like leave the past behind? Should people have more access to this information, or should people have access to more knowledge? And in Jurassic Park, it's like I said, they do so much better of a job in presenting those moral differences.
And by the way, I should have mentioned way more. I mean, David Koepp, everybody has seen all of his films: Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, War of the Worlds, Indiana Jones, Carlito's Way, Panic Room, Angels and Demons, The Mummy. I mean, he is one of the most commercially successful screenwriters, and Spielberg has said on podcasts that his writing partnerships with both Koepp and the writer Tony Kushner are two of the most fruitful in his life, in addition to other long-time partnerships like with Williams and Kaminsky. My problem with the religious stuff is that it was just too broad. It wasn't intellectually honest. Religion is not always very cinematic,
I agree.
Some other stuff on the garbage list, I thought. Government stooges. Spielberg just does very campily, So let's talk about Colin Firth, one of our greatest living actors. He's got a terrible beard. He has this weird kind of choked way that he speaks like this, and he's got all these dumb people who can't fire a gun right, and it's just that whole stuff. Anything with them, I thought was badly done. Did that hit you at all? The government stooge people.
Okay, see, this is where I'm terrible. I'm with you on how muddy the message was, because he's the one who makes it the most muddy.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. I'm going to be honest, guys. I did not understand his ultimate aim here.
Yes, great point.
I didn't understand what was important to keep in control. I didn't understand anything other than trying. In fact, when you were like, oh, he's with this company or whatever, I was like, isn't it also slightly the American government? I don't know.
You're right. They're funded.
I was like,
yes.
yeah. And so I remember thinking to myself, are we trying to say like governments are trying to control our access to information and our freedom of like and that's why I was like, yo, this is taking way too many turns. And once they brought in the religious element, I was like, you kind of could have left some of that iconography out and just focused here on the political aspect. And somebody still would have politically tied in something religious to the story without him having to show it in such a specific way. And so I was kind of like, with Colin Firth's performance, I was like, he's somebody who pulled off mustache twirling.
It was mustache twirling. No, actually, great. That's fair.
Say it 10 times again. Say it 10 times. Mustache twirling.
Mustache twirling. Mustache twirling. Mustache twirling. Mustache twirling. Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, but and I it's not like I fault him. I think he was directed in this way.
He was paid, Joey. He was paid. They have direct deposit.
I think we gotta talk about the ending to extend the conversation about Colin Firth, because he makes a decision that every podcaster I've listened to and every friend that I've dished with have found very confusing. Just one more thing I never want to see, Mia. I never want to see again a underground headquarters with 1,000 video monitors. I never want to see it. I don't want to see it. They're all the exact same. From Armageddon to Independence Day to Apollo 13 to Close Encounters to the recent Dynamite film that Catherine Bigelow did. I never want to see
They're
it.
a little better on Hunger Games. I feel like they're not TVs.
Yes, good point. Good point. I never want to see that. And we spent so much time in that dumb, repetitive set. It just made me upset.
Can I tell you something? It's that type of stuff that made it feel dated. You are in an age of having on, I don't know, your little headset and being able to minority report some of these images. Right. We're sitting here looking at Toshibas all mounted on the wall.
God, kill me. Just kill me. Okay, a couple of positive things before we go to a spoiler warning. What I think worked, I think that we have never seen the full range of Emily Blunt's talent before this picture. I think it was, when we say revelatory, she was like revealing more talent than we knew that she had. There is a mental breakdown, like an anxiety attack scene that is 100% believable. Everybody is talking about and kind of lightly joking about her clicking and her throat noises during the trailer. That is her, plus some sound design, but she and her vocal coach said, no, we're not going to use AI. That is her. She is running, she is crying, she is laughing. I mean, were you impressed by her as I was? I thought she was.
Can I tell you,
amazing.
she literally carries the whole movie.
She carries it. She really does.
In fact, when she's not in the scenes, you're kind of like, oh, I guess we have to go back to these other people,
right?
Because she gives you all of the. She gives you that classic Spielberg. Yeah. I don't know if you remember when you're watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom or any Indiana Jones movie. It's like leading ladies are always smart, but they have some real reactions to what's happening around them, right? They're not as like they kind of stand in for us as an audience getting to participate, and she delivers in a way that I feel like has so much range, but is so adaptable for all of us to go, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm fixing to drive off and I'm just going to have to go,
totally.
I'm going to go ahead and leave.
And it's like she takes the script and she stretches out her lines to give her character more depth. Not only is she driven, not only is she worried, but she's daffy and plucky, and she's trying to get out of jams, and she's making jokes. And I thought her work with Wyatt Russell was great. Kurt Russell's son. He recently played kind of the shitty Captain America in Thunderbolts, and I think he's got to be careful, Mia, because he's kind of playing not a dirtbag in every movie, but he has some unlikability to him. But his work with Emily Blunt in this was great. I thought Josh O'Connor was great. I think he's been great in everything. Eve Hewson is good as Jane, I think.
I've been watching Coleman Domingo
too.
in a lot of things, And my God, he has a way of making whatever he's in, whatever scene he's in,
I know what you're
it's
gonna say.
like, it's real to him, so it's
Yep.
real to us. Because
Perfectly
there's
said.
so much that's happening that you're like, he's so removed from the action in some ways for most of this film, but you don't feel that way. You
Yep.
feel in that way that he is the director in the way of removed, and he performs the role that way. Like, I'm the director, I'm up in the, or I'm the producer, really. I'm up in the office, I'm watching downstairs, you continue, we have this. He just seems very confident in this role. But
and warm.
He's been playing a version of this role in a few films. I feel like he's becoming that guy.
That's a great point.
Like, if your film is not all the way believable, you need to get him in it to, like, play your either newscaster or manager or something.
Yep. And by the way, speaking of range, if you want to see Coleman Domingo's full range, never has it been illuminated so brightly as in Rustin from 2023, about the civil rights leader who's often forgotten, who is a contemporary of MLK Jr. He is magnificent in that. That is his, like, Emily Blunt performance. And you're right, Mia, he can do a lot more than what some of these directors have him do. I also wonder if it was kind of like, Spielberg saw his rising star and saw his universal appeal through all these past movies in the last couple of years, and, like, snatched him up to put him in this to help plus up the affinity that we as viewers would all have.
That's him and Colin Firth.
And
it's
Colin
like,
Firth,
okay,
yeah.
they believe what they're doing, we believe what
Yeah,
they're doing.
yeah.
But if you strip those people away, you have our main character, Emily Blunt,
Right.
who's basically carrying the whole film. Josh O'Connor is actually he's not hard to watch at all. I just find him to be... I find what they cast him to play, which is to kind of represent a little bit of every man. I think it's the ears that stick out, that they're like, he is going to represent every man, right? That sometimes he just falls flat for me. And it's not because he's a flat actor. It's just, do you see what I'm saying? It's like, I think I agree. There's something about the way he looks.
Innocence.
That they go, every man is going to relate to this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know who I think gives the second best performance is the journalist at the end of the film, and her name is Courtney Grace, and we're going to talk about her right after this spoiler following break on Do You See What I Mean? Welcome back. We're talking about Disclosure Day, Spielberg's 35th picture on Do You See What I Mean? We're going to talk about the ending and a couple of other things that are sort of spoilers for the next couple minutes. So skip ahead 5-10 minutes, and then you'll join Mia and I as we talk about our top 5 Spielberg.
Wait. I
sure.
want to stop you before this spoiler. And I'm about to ask you, do you believe in aliens? Like, when you're watching this, are you going, yeah, when the aliens get here, or if there were aliens, this is not the aliens I imagine, or are you an alien guy?
Yes, I do believe in extraterrestrial life. I do believe that there is some form that has already landed on our shores. I do believe that there's probably something to this almond eye shaped visage that has been, evident in global cultures for a long time. Do you?
Yeah, I do. I believe in aliens. I think they're here already.
Right? Yeah. So
I
that's
think
the thing,
they're
Mia.
here, and I think I don't think they come to major cities. So I get really mad when I see movies and they're hovering over New York City. I think if they're hovering over New York City, they're here to kill. But I actually feel like they hang out in very remote areas. So whenever I hear people saying they spot them and they live out on these farms and stuff like that, I'm like, that's where, if you are an alien, that is where you're going to go. I know that sounds, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be more technology.
It's going to be less populated. Yeah.
And I think they know enough about us to know how we think and how to not start shit that creates problems for what they're here to do.
What I also think, to build on your comment of their existing presence, is that they will be otherworldly. like in Denis Villeneuve's Arrival with Amy Adams, these cute, long, multi-story creatures with different languages and different technology. I don't think that they're all one thing. Um, at the end of this film, basically what happens, I mean, listener, this is a spoiler, but you know what happens. This is called Disclosure Day. Josh O'Connor works for an agency that is funded by the government, takes like 1 million flash drives, and doesn't put them online as would happen in real life. He takes them to a local news station. Emily Blunt is the reporter. He goes, and then they phone NBC, and they're talking to Rock Center, and they're putting in the flash drives with the alien footage, and he tells the producer, don't skip a frame. And NBC takes... So this makes the film fall down to a lot of viewers, Mia. Everybody that I talked to hated the ending. I haven't talked to anybody who liked it.
It's like a date that you're like, it's okay, and then he comes back to the place, drops trowel, and you're doing, wait.
I love drop trowel, by the way. That's so great.
He drops trowel.
So there's a lot of problems here. Number one, that's not how the news cycle is today. Spielberg and Kep are getting a lot of criticism for this last thing. Number two, everyone would believe it was AI. You would, I would, everyone would. The film addresses this viewer concern by having one little tech in NBC's Rock Center run this little program, and it says ground truth pixel confirmed or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's
Bummer.
what I need. I need a verified pixel confirmed.
We kind of do need that. Yeah. There is an alien device that looks like a little, I don't know, felt pen or marker. It's a tiny little magic wand that's unexplained, but because it's from the alien, if you hold it, you can travel into someone else's brain.
I'm like, James Bond had that
terrible.
Back in the 80s.
There you go. Yeah, James Bond had better stuff.
James Bond had that shit.
Also, again, we talked about Arrival is the better picture when it comes to alien gifts. The X-Men series, Days of Future Past, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, all those great pictures are a better example of mind control and mind conversations. Do you agree with that? Than this one? I was not moved by that stuff here.
This one was really troubling to me because we talked about this where I'm like, this is not my philosophy of film. I do need in my sci-fi more of how does it work? And when I'm just getting like, what does it all mean and getting too many moral questions going on, I end up sitting there with too many questions. I don't enjoy the film. So that's why I was like, I'm a little more of like a Christopher Nolan type of gal, where I'm like, show me how the dream gets built. Show me how you travel through those dreams. Show me how it tires you out and its impact. And this film doesn't do any of that. It just jumps into like, y'all know how all this works. We got to get to the news station. You know, it's a little different. And so for me, the technology is like, it's like you're talking about it like, I was like, look, it made no sense, a lot of it. It's very...
I know.
It doesn't do any show and tell in that way. And you know, for me, like for my work, I work at places where people don't care how do things work, right? So let's say... you know, you get to that company and you're like, why do y'all send this document like 10 times? And they're like, oh, you're not going to believe this. We had a problem. And Beth decided we got to send this document 10 times. And you're like, if they had just asked, how does this work? You'd only be sending it twice. But there's something about the way this movie unfolds. It's just like that. It's like, there is a reason why everybody's doing everything. But if they showed how it worked, or why it works, or why that mattered, I think that would carry more of the film than some of the weaker dialogue. So
I agree with you.
For me, I just I checked out after a while. I was like, if they're not going to show me how it works, then I guess I got to believe that Colin Firth's character is really, really tired after
great point. So the other major thing that happens at the end, the whole plot propulsion is driven by this government-funded military conspiracy group are chasing Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor.
Tax dollars.
Tax dollars.
Your taxing
So they
dollars.
don't want them to share the truth about aliens. And then we're at the very end, Colin Firth has the upper hand and then just lets them go and lets them post it and sits down. And what had happened before is that one of Emily Blunt's powers is that she can appear to another person as someone in their life who has been lost. Colin Firth lost his wife She appears to him as his wife, and after that, he goes soft and just lets her win. That was a huge criticism.
I didn't think they had to be dead people. She just seemed to have an in on just being able to look into their lives and capture, kind of like a message for them. But I didn't think there had to be. She did talk to a lot of different people, and I was like, they didn't have to be dead. They just had to be, have something going on behind the eyes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I wasn't saying that's the only thing she did, but what she does as is empathy. Now, when she's stopped on the way to her job at the news station by a cop, and she looks into his eyes and he says, your wife has just had a baby, she needs a nap, you're tired too, do this, take her to a nice place. That's a little bit of empathy. But Mia, if I just look at you and I'm like, oh, you used to live in Texas, that must have been hot there. That's not empathy. That's just mind reading and someone's personal history reading. So I thought, again, that was poor writing by Kep. It's like a really cool.
That blows my mind that they sold it as empathy, because she uses it to like get out of tickets. She uses it to get out of it's one of those things where I'm like, the military that's base. A little more manipulative to me actually than anything. In other words,
it's a great point.
It's not like she gets pulled over and she has a and does this. Oh man, you got to get home. Your wife's tired, and that's not what's going on. She's doing this. I'm running late. And your wife is tired, and you need to get going and pick her up her ice cream. It was to me a little more manipulation.
Yeah, it's a great point.
You can have kind of like, we can all walk into a room and pick up on people's energy and dynamics, but it's almost like empathy still. It's not trying to. It's not opportunistic in that type of way.
Exactly.
So I just felt like
there was a moment though, Mia, the first time I saw it, I did feel like I was seeing myself, because I do think that way sometimes when I am talking to you, when I'm talking to my other friends, and during the week as we go through time, I'm thinking, okay, where's Mia right now? She just took a trip for work. I wonder how things are in that place, and did she eat? And I think about people's lives. I try to through their eyes, and there was a really nice idea. But then she's using it for certain ways, and it's also it's not just empathy; it's mind reading. And then there's the whole dead people thing, and I don't know.
Right, like for instance, if you were like,
fumbled.
how was your trip, and did you eat and stuff like that, and then it was like an element of like, and did you manage to pick up that thing for me? Like there's this dynamic where when you were a kid and you called your mom. And you didn't want to ask for money yet, so you started off first with like,
right.
Like, oh yeah, you're probably tired and stuff, and like, and then you ended with, and can I get $50? I just need to go to, like, there's that.
That's so
there
funny.
was something off where I was like, I didn't register it as empathy, because I just think empathy in a muscle works a little. Works a little differently. So
I'm referring to like Coleman Domingo tells Colin Firth, if we don't have empathy, we won't evolve. And he tells her at the end, before Grandma Alien comes out, that the aliens helped you, Emily Blunt, understand us ourselves, and the aliens helped you, Josh O'Connor, understand them. So they're trying to push this idea of understanding and empathy. At the very end, we have a scene-stealing performance by a younger performer named Courtney Grace. And I was looking up her stuff, Mia. Netflix, Stranger Things, some stuff that I have. This is my first time seeing her. She plays the journalist at the very end, the national news journalist that they cut to at Rock Center after all of this really cheesy, like bad found footage stuff of aliens that just contain no original ideas. And her performance is magnetizing. It's just a couple of minutes on screen and you're seeing her react in real time, and she has such humanity. That was just a Hail Mary pass at the end of the picture. Beautiful little performance, until finally the camera cuts to Emily Blunt and she says, listen, and then the credits roll.
I saw that. I was like, oh,
how did you think? What did you think? What did you think, Mia, when the credits rolled?
I just feel like, once again, when you're making a movie for everybody, sometimes it's hard to make a movie for somebody. And I feel like that's one of those things where maybe the original script had something else Like, and this is one of those films where they said, well, let's just cut that. Let's just leave it to the audience to decide. Or, you know,
Yeah,
so I
right,
did feel
right.
like that's where it just felt, you know, very big budget, big box kind of film where
Yeah,
they can't
yeah,
say anything in particular, you
yeah.
know, versus when you watch the Arrivals, right? There's no, you know, if y'all are feeling
Arrival.
spoiled, Arrivals. No, I'm kidding. Arrival. When you watch Arrival, there's a dynamic where it's like, if you knew what was going to happen, would you make some of the same choices?
Great
And
question.
there's
I
an
love that question.
actual, there's something that gets resolved there
No.
where you go, yeah, I would have, or clearly this other character wouldn't have, and you can see both sides. Notice they don't
Yeah.
make you pick that you would pick one or the other. They let you, but they still make a decision as a filmmaker to show you and
Yeah.
give you that. But in this film, you just don't. I feel like they decided to basically not resolve itself. And in not resolving itself, it's supposed to linger on our mind, be buzzy, be talked about. But I didn't think it had a good effect. In other words, if the rest of the film gave us some clarity, well, then we would have been fine with that. But the most of the film mixes in too many concepts that by the time you don't resolve yourself, it's like it's literally like I'm picking up on every scent in the room: the candle, the toilet, the clogged up drain. Plus,
Oh my
I'm
God,
picking
that's
up
so
on
funny.
your perfume. And it's like nothing is resolved. It's just like y'all
Nothing's
gotta
resolved.
get,
They're just all present.
they're just
Yeah.
all present. And that's why I was
Yep.
like, this was not the way to end this. But this does feel very specific to somebody who has a big budget, has to bring in big money, and cannot give you any resolution because he doesn't want to offend or he doesn't want to make a statement about himself that could hurt his, you know, box office future.
I think that is a great closing comment and inclusive of a lot of the different dynamics here. I think it's a picture with a great curiosity and wonderment and a purity and innocence of ideas that just suffered from I think tough writing, and it doesn't necessarily have the magic that so many pictures of this just quintessentially American filmmaker gave us throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And we're going to talk about our top 5 Spielberg right after one more break on Do You See What I Mean? Okay, welcome back. We're talking about Spielberg Disclosure Day, and now I'm going to ask you, Mia, about your top 5 Spielberg. And what I think we should do is start from number 5 and then work our way back up to 1.
You say 5 or 10, but I'm going to give you some honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions, we like that.
So
We'll take
my
them.
honorable mention is going to be Minority Report, which I actually
Okay.
feel as a concept was really, really cool. And I wish there
Excellent.
was something cooler that came out that tackles the same topic, right? But I also was really impacted by the movie Jaws as a kid. When I say impacted,
Oh, for sure.
I mean heavily afraid of sharks. And when we would go out to Galveston
Yes.
Beach, there would be periods where they would have to call us in because they were just like, you know, and it was just, for me, that movie just like owned my beach life, okay, as a kid.
Interesting.
But if I had to go through, I'm going to give you my top 5 is going to hit with The Color Purple, Schindler's List. I'm also going to name out Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, and
Which one? The first one? Raiders or?
actually, I'm going to be controversial about the Temple of Doom because I know that one had a lot of heat for good reasons. It's not
True.
it's not a culturally kind film at all, but it was scary as fuck as a kid. Like the
Yep.
bugs,
Absolutely.
the evil
The
fire and
heart-wrenching-
demons. Yes, that movie scared the shit out of me. Catch Me If You Can is another
Yeah,
one
it's good.
that, quite frankly, I read the book. I love the story. I definitely think it's a Spielberg guy, and And I think as a kid, I remember for a birthday, we rented a hotel room at the Embassy Suites. I had kids over, and
Oh,
we
how
watched.
fun! That's such a great birthday idea.
Yeah, and we watched Hook, and I will always
Oh,
remember Hook
Hook.
as a
I
birthday
always forget
movie.
about Hook. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. What a great memory.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. Now, those are all amazing. We're going to talk in a second about some misses or head scratchers, but for me, my top 10, Ready Player One is kind of maligned with Spielberg fans, but it's so rewatchable, and the video game set pieces, Mount Doom, the Shining set piece, it just is really rewatchable. Nine for me would be Color Purple. It's a beautiful film. I got to revisit it when you wrote that great episode last season on Sexless Edits. My number eight is Minority Report. I think it's super sophisticated. It was current for the time, which is something that Disclosure Day doesn't really feel like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Seven for me is Saving Private Ryan. I think the first 20 minutes are a historical document that
Oh, yeah.
are even more important than the following 2 hours. Um,
Yeah.
Close Encounters I rewatched last month. It is just resplendent and bursting with imagination, except for Terry Garr and the whole family that he ditches and has no consequence for, but that'd be another podcast. Um, Jurassic Park at my number five. I mean, it's the only one in the franchise that matters to me. I don't think any of the others are good. The dinosaur set piece with the overturned car and the drop of water is the purity of cinema that goes back to Cecil B. DeMille. I mean, it was also a watershed moment in VFX because these guys, these like wacko guys at ILM in the ranch at Marin, they created the technology for Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, and they changed filmmaking forever. So that is kind of an important document. Mia, my number four, Temple of Doom.
Of course it is.
It is
'Cause it's
my
scary
favorite.
as fuck.
I don't think I've watched a film more times than Temple of Doom. I have a thread with my brother-in-law and sister, and we know we could reference. We have 30 or 40 Temple of Doom references. We are constantly referencing it year after year. It has such staying power. You're right, Mia. It's got some geopolitical racism that is not excusable, and I take it. I've watched it so many times.
In fact, when you watch the scenes that are the most like problematic, there is an element to it where I was like, this doesn't even need to be here, and this film still stands. But it's a especially because it's like the when he arrives in the dining scene with the food.
Oh my God,
that's usually the one where I'm like,
James
okay, I
Bond
can
pastiche,
skip this,
yeah.
or I can go to the bathroom for this one. But at the same
Wait,
time, when you
no, that's not about. Oh no, you're talking about when they get to the bank. Once they get to Bangkok Palace.
Yes, he's like
Okay.
monkey's brains, and they're just like
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, "Yo, like this has gone too far, Spielberg."
Yes,
But as a
for sure.
kid, it is like your imagination,
I know.
your fears kick off, and I just remember
Yep.
thinking like that doesn't really need to be in there. The film is still scary as fuck
Yeah.
without it.
Yes, it is.
You
You're
know.
right.
So some of the cultural stuff, I'm like, they could just put that on a commercial break, and
Yeah, it's a good
I
point.
still
It's a
like
good
it.
point. But I was so obsessed with it that at a Chinese New Year party a couple years ago, I performed Anything Goes in Mandarin. I mean, the garbagey translated Mandarin that Kate Capshaw does at that party because it's just got so much verve. My number three is Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think it's maybe the
Yeah.
best adventure film of all time. And it's the riffing on the tropes of old Hollywood in the 30s, 40s, 50s, but then it's the establishment of a new arc, one of the best scores ever. And then my number two is E.T. I just think it's top 10 film for me of all time. It is so imaginative, and so that's real empathy because E.T. feels what other people feel. So again, to go back to Disclosure Day, Spielberg is riffing on ideas that he did better before, and it doesn't look good. And my number one is Schindler's List, which I actually would say, if I had to, that it's the best film of all time. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I think it's a historical document. I think because of the way that old Hollywood is rooted between the wars, World War I and World War II, and because World War II was the most collective experience of not just one, but three or four generations, it provides the most power for cinema because it has the broadest references and some of the deepest meaning. as I watched Disclosure Day, I just kept thinking, how did this guy also make Schindler's List, which elevated the art form, and then he made this, which just, I mean, it's not even in our
Yeah.
top 5, 10,
And
15.
I think that's something interesting too, because he does do well with these very ensemble like casts. And when you watch Schindler's List, it is flawless performances by everybody. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
everybody seems to be making a little bit of history
That's
in
an
this
excellent
film.
point. Great
But
observation.
it's also
Yeah.
like the first film where you're watching something that felt like, because it predates, you know, your Saving Private Ryan's, but it's the first film where it's like it's a film, it's a story, but it's a historical document. They bring
Yeah.
both historical imagery and acting. They don't leave anything out that you would have saw in a historical footage, right? Like
Sure.
there's something with this film that I think took reenactment of history to a whole nother level. So it was
Right.
groundbreaking versus I feel like if you get a budget for something like a Disclosure Day, right? You have to ask yourself, like, is this that Saving Private Ryan movie where I need to create a image and a moment
era.
that captures
Yeah.
a new era of alien life visiting us that hasn't been done before? Because War of the Worlds really does kind of give you those early Quiet Place moments of like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean, destruction and you know the aftermath of that type of visit. But or you have to decide to focus on the storytelling, or you have to decide to focus on the ensemble element of your cast. He does neither, and he does none of those things in this film. It's focused on so many elements that I was like, people who are doing these very cheap films with A24 are
Yeah.
doing a
$1 million.
better job.
I know.
But I don't
I
know
know.
if it's more of like his past of like being the director who had to deliver it all in a movie.
Yep.
And they're used to having to deliver it all in a movie. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't do that same film today. Like, I don't know how you would do a Saving Private Ryan today. With our cameras, and now they would probably, all the actors would have to have cameras strapped to their bodies for like
Body cam
some
stuff,
sort
which has happened in cinema. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're
but
right.
it's like you know, he didn't really do anything well here. He just did a lot.
And a lot of the same things that he's done, but to have something fall flat is another similarity between this Brat Pack that we mentioned. If you think about De Palma, Coppola, Lucas, and Scorsese, all of them have some pictures that don't really work. I mean, to go back to Spielberg, he did the film 1941, and that was in 1971 before Jaws. That was a flop. He did The Lost World, Jurassic Park in 97. Mia, do you remember The Terminal in 2004 with
I do
Tom
remember
Hanks
The
and Catherine
Terminal.
Zeta-Jones?
People
I have
don't
tried
say
to
that.
watch it so many times, and
that
I
movie?
cannot get through it. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in 2008, The Fablemans in 2022, and now Disclosure Day in 2026. So, I mean, he has so many masterpieces and wonderful
He has
films.
like
But-
Munich. He's got AI.
Yeah,
he's
Munich.
got a
AI
lot
is amazing.
of. He's got Amistad. I mean, he has a lot of. One of the things I think he does really well is that sort of biopic, non-biopic film, and focusing in on one particular person's clear journey is something I think he can handle, and I don't think that was possible with Disclosure Day. And I feel like if he had maybe moved into that space, this might have worked a little better, and it would have had
Yeah.
some. I don't think this was like the writing sucked or the editing sucked. It was just like then everybody could have like understood what they
Yeah.
had to emotionally deliver.
Yeah.
Because clearly he can do action. This is not a like.
No, and we should say it is not a bad film. It is well produced. It's well directed. It has some great set pieces. There are cars. There are trains. There are twin storylines. There are story of childhood and wonder. And
hell, there was hail. I thought he was going to pull out Twister for a minute. I was like, damn.
There was
like,
hail. Exactly. Oh, I know. So we do think it is still worth seeing, but we're just struggling with the trajectory of his career and looking back at some of the most amazing films in cinema, which are his. A couple of others that Mia and I recommend. I mean, this made me think a lot about Close Encounters, E.T., War of the Worlds, but there's also some other interesting kind of supernatural alien films like City of Angels, The Prophecy, Interstellar, and Contact. And I think a lot of those films have some of what this film was trying to reach for as well.
And Joey, don't forget the arrivals. And I'm talking
all
about
of the arrivals.
all of the arrivals, including the 90s one with what's his name? Charlie Sheen, where the aliens' legs pop backwards. You don't remember that one?
I don't remember that one.
Okay,
no.
where they hop away, but their knees lock backwards and they hop away. But it's Charlie Sheen.
Oh my God, a
has
1996 sci-fi thriller called The Arrival. You're right.
Yes.
My God, your mind is a steel trap. Terry
that's why I
Polo,
was
Richard
like,
Schiff.
I keep saying
Wow.
The Arrivals, but it's like one of them is Arrival and the other one is The Arrivals. Watch them both, y'all,
my
and see
God.
which one you like the most.
Those are good recommendations. All right, Mia, well, that wraps it up for us for Disclosure Day. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at a couple pictures that we didn't do full episodes on for the first half of 2026, because if you can believe it, we're halfway to Oscar nomination season in January 27. So we'll look back at a couple of films like the drama In the Gray, Crime 101, Mother Mary, and Death of Robin Hood, which you just saw, Mia, right here next week on Do You See What I Mean?